Are we blinded by their smiles? Has Jimin actually been giving farewell signals for a long time? And is it true that Taehyung is the main reason for the emotional rift hidden for so many years? Now, towards the end of Jungkook's enlistment, ARMY is shocked by Jimin's coldness and surprising clues that seem to answer all the puzzles. But did they really code each other a long time ago? Or is everything just an illusion formed by Jungkook and Taehyung's closeness, finally connected? Jungkook and Jimin gave each other instructions a long time ago. Taehyung was thought to be the main reason Jimin secretly moved away, and now it's all been revealed. No one can deny that behind the sweet smiles, the grand stage, and the ARMY's booming cheers, there is a silent story that has been hidden. A dynamic that slowly but surely began to show its shape, like an intricate puzzle whose pieces were scattered over the years. And now, as the shocking news of Jungkook's imminent end to his mandatory military service spreads, something feels off, very off. Why is Jimin, his closest friend who has been known to have irreplaceable chemistry with him, silent? Even more than that, some of Jimin's latest remarks actually made many soldiers silent and feel hurt. Isn't this the most emotional moment? The moment when they should have welcomed the moment of reunion with excitement and enthusiasm? But the truth is no. What appears is precisely the feeling of cold, flat, and almost painful. I guess this is a sign that Jimin and Jungkook's relationship has changed. Or even more surprising, was this all because of someone who had been considered part of the inseparable trio? Yes, Taehyung. Strange clues began to appear. Not only from facial expressions or body language, but also from speech, actions, even the lyrics of the songs they have sung together. And now the ARMY is wondering, have they actually been giving each other signals for a long time, without us knowing it? Let's pull the red thread back, long before the conscripts put a physical distance between them. Jimin and Jungkook have always been known to have different affinities. They are not just group mates, not just best friends, but two souls who understand each other without the need for many words. But is it all just the past? Because quietly, something began to change.
Slow down.
Smooth. Barely noticeable until finally too obvious to ignore. Taehyung. A figure who is also no less close to the two, but lately has been seen more often by Jungkook's side. Not only in formal occasions, but also in personal moments. Photos, online interactions, and even just a small gesture that seems so meaningful to anyone who looks closely at it. Then, Jimin? Where has he been all this time? Why does he seem to retreat, invisible, noiseless? Up to a point, Jimin's remarks that should have touched ARMY's heart actually sparked a debate. Not all reunions mean coming back, he said in a radio broadcast that seemed fleeting, but left fans feeling odd. Is it meant for Jungkook? Is it a sign that their relationship is cracked? And the most painful question is it true that Taehyung is the main reason? There have been many speculations, but one is certain. The relationship between the three is no longer as simple as it used to be. Jimin, who used to always smile warmly when he was next to Jungkook, is now more often downcast, dodging, or even not present at all. The clues, which had seemed random, began to come together like neglected puzzle pieces. When Jungkook uploaded a song with the lyrics, "You stay away even if I survive," ARMY thought it was just an artistic expression. But after seeing all this, after realizing that Jimin didn't give a single sweet word to welcome Jungkook, everything changed. It's not just about absence. It's also about the presence of others. Taehyung. Many are beginning to ask, is this a love triangle? Or is it just a form of misunderstanding frozen for years? However, ARMY's emotions were heightened when Jimin was seen liking a comment that said that closeness is not always warmth. Is this a form of sarcasm? Is this the kind of pain you can no longer hide? Or is this a reply to something that happened a long time ago? Because now, as Jungkook prepares to return to the entertainment world, ARMY doesn't see Haru. They did not see tears of happiness or long-awaited hugs. All they see is empty space and wound signals, and when things got even more unclear, Taehyung appeared with a hanging sentence in a personal post. Some stories are not for publication. The sentence that made netizens wonder, is this about Jimin and Jungkook? Or about something deeper, more emotional, and more painful? Now that Jimin is slowly getting back to being active on social media, he looks fine. But isn't it the most painful? When a person looks strong when inside there is an unfinished storm, not once did Jimin give signals twice in his songs. I love you but cannot be with you. Your steps are moving away, and I do not call you back. These lines again stick out, like an echo of the past that we have been ignoring, and now we ask ourselves, did they give each other hints a long time ago? Is what we see as harmony merely a mask of a widening emotional distance? What makes all this even more emotional is the fact that no one really explains what happened. Not HYB, not Jimin, not Jungkook, and of course, not Taehyung. They all chose silence, and silence is what is now noisy in the ears of the fans. A painful voice, a questioning voice. Did I ask this the end? Or is it just the beginning of a new chapter? Because one thing is certain, the relationship of the three of them is no longer what it used to be, and maybe never again. And when silence was the answer, it was also then that the ARMY began to dig back old memories that were once so meaningful. An old video of Jimin gently touching Jungkook's shoulder, then smiling as if the world belonged to just the two of them, has gone viral. But now, that smile is just suffocating. Because everything that once seemed real now feels like a dream that never really came true. Dio, they love each other in silence. Did they just hold back their feelings for the sake of maintaining harmony that was never really intact? And why is it only now that all this is starting to open up? The presence of Taehyung, who is now getting closer to Jungkook, makes everything even more difficult to explain. Many soldiers testified that since Taehyung was seen more often with Jungkook, even in some military moments that were not widely publicized, Jimin actually began to disappear. Not only from the camera, but also from the interaction that in the past, Jimin was always the first person to give support when Jungkook did something big. But as news of Jungkook's return nears, one by one ARMY comes to its senses. Not a single upload from Jimin shows any joy. No welcome. No crying emoji, no virtual hug, nothing. Until the end, the words that came out of Jimin's mouth were the ones that touched the most sensitive side of ARMY. There are things that are not worth welcoming because his separation is much more painful than his return. The remark, although nameless, immediately caused a stir among the fans. The online community is full of speculation. Some are trying to understand, but not a few feel hit by the fact that their idols are harboring wounds, and perhaps those wounds are US. Or them. When Jimin appeared in a private radio session that took place live, fans had hoped there would be clarification. However, once again, Jimin chose the opposite path. In a calm but cold tone, he said, "Some people come back just to go further." And instantly, the ARMY froze. The sentence cuts like a sharp knife slicing in the middle of the warmth that has been believed to be real. Is Jungkook the person Jimin was referring to? Does Jungkook's return actually remind Jimin of the feelings he has buried deep? And at the same time, Taehyung uploaded a photo of himself and Jungkook laughing at the training ground. The caption? Just one word, finally. That's all. But enough to turn the world of fans upside down. Finally? Finally what? Is this the end of the old tension? Or is it the end of the emotional relationship that Jimin has been harboring? The ARMY's eyes began to open. The old videos of Jimin staring at Jungkook secretly backstage now feel like pieces of a puzzle that have lost a partner. Not a few fans said they felt betrayed by reality, because they have always believed that the Jimin Jungkook Taehyung trio is the emotional foundation of BTS. But now, the foundation began to crack, especially when Jimin deleted some old posts related to Jungkook. The ARMY, who noticed at first, thought it was a system error. But after being confirmed by fans from the international community, they realized this is no coincidence. This is a tacit statement, and this is not the first time. Already last year, before enlistment, Jimin had said in an interview session, "Sometimes you have to stop loving someone to still be able to breathe." That sentence sounds like a metaphor, but now, not anymore. Jungkook, in one live session, once cried and said, "I don't know if he heard this, but I want him to know I never change." And when the ARMY linked all the clues together, there was one big suspicion. They were communicating messages to each other in ways that were indirect, but painful enough to understand. Now, on the eve of Jungkook's return, the fandom world is divided. There are those who support Jimin, considering him two long-harbored wounds. There are also those who side with Jungkook and Taehyung, who are considered to finally be able to strengthen each other in the midst of difficult times. But one thing is undeniable: their emotional relationship has changed. The news that Jungkook will be performing in a big. The afternoon sky on Jungkook's last training day looked dimmer than usual. No cheering, no clinking of the usual acoustic guitar greeted the final days of a person who was about to return from training. But there was one striking thing: a piece of mail left in Jungkook's personal locker, with no sender's name, no sign. Contains only short sentences. If you come home not for me, at least don't forget who used to secretly push you forward. ARMY, who realized that this piece of sentence came from a poem Jimin had written in 2021, immediately felt collapsed. It was no ordinary letter. It was a silent memoir of someone who was too tired to talk, yet still wanted to be remembered. And oddly enough, the letter was discovered by military staff and then leaked through a closed community, not through an official account, not through a planned upload. Then the question is, why didn't Jimin send it directly? Why did he choose such a painful silence? Meanwhile, Jungkook, who usually can't hide his emotions, suddenly turned down a farewell photo shoot on the grounds of wanting to keep other people's privacy. Who does he mean? And why did parting with the military become precisely such a stressful moment? The most surprising thing happened when Taehyung suddenly appeared at the closing ceremony of the training. He didn't say much, just stood by Jungkook's side and gave him a hug. But ARMY captured something deeper than that. Jungkook's expression changed. His eyes were like looking for something in the distance. It was like there was one person who wasn't present, and Taehyung's presence reminded him of that absence. And then, that very night, Jimin uploaded a photo with a twilight background. The caption: "The only thing that cannot be repeated is a missed meeting. No explanation. No name." But for the ARMY, it's like a delicate incision that opens all the wounds. How can two people who used to sing love lyrics to each other in concert now throw messages at each other in silence? Is it really all because of Taehyung and Jungkook's closeness? Is it true that Jimin withdrew because he did not want to be a shadow in a relationship that began to be seen in public? Fans began to reassemble the pieces of the old puzzle. When Taehyung and Jungkook looked too familiar on a variety show ahead of the draft. When they sing Jimin's favorite song without mentioning his name. When Jimin refused to attend the program that brought all the members together ahead of departure. ARMY, who once thought it was just scheduling, now began to ask, is this actually a form of emotional rejection? And then came an unexpected statement from a former BTS stylist who is no longer under contract. In an anonymous broadcast, he said the relationship between the three people is much more complicated than what is shown. There are feelings, there is pressure, and there is one party who feels never appreciated enough. It made him slowly move away, not out of hate, but because it hurt too much to stay. All eyes were on Jimin, and the public reaction is heating up. ARMY began flooding the comments section of HYB's official account with the hashtags hashtag where is Jimin, hashtag protect Jimin, and hashtag JungkookTruth. They don't accuse, but they demand an explanation. Because they have been reading cryptic messages for too long without knowing what really happened. And when things got even more chaotic, Taehyung actually added fire to the coals by uploading a short video with Jungkook. They laughed. They sing. They play guitar. But at the end of the video, a background voice, allegedly not part of the recording, says, "We finally just need each other." The statement immediately made some of the ARMY angry, but others are just silent. Because they know the most painful truths don't always come in the form of clarification. They sometimes come in too transparent honesty. In the meantime, Jimin said nothing. He appeared only occasionally in his radio broadcasts, singing old songs with a completely changed meaning. Like when he re-sang Promise in a slower, deeper, and quieter tone that I end one broadcast. Jimin said, sometimes, the one thing that can't be fixed is not because it's broken, but because it was never done in the first place. And that night, the whole